Let's have a little spring equinox meditation, shall we? I really appreciate Dave Kiebert's share about the rosemary and its flowers. It's moist pink, or no, purple, bluish, something with a P, purplish, bluish flowers on the rosemary. It has seemed like a long winter. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. Springtime is a time of hope. I saw this myself this morning and yesterday, really. We have a frost-tolerant peach tree that we planted last year. And even though it froze about a week and a half ago, our peach tree has these optimistic little pink buds on it. They're like, wow. And then we've got this ornamental cherry tree that we planted last year, and it's got whole new little twigs coming out of there. Just within a week, they're like, hey, we're new twigs. It's springtime, y'all. So the whole plant kingdom seems hopeful to me. And I took a lesson from them for today's service. So today's service is about spring as a time of hope. And I also took some inspiration from the fact that we have a group either started already or upcoming on the work, Joanna Mace's work on active hope. And Sue Ann has things later that you can look at regarding such a group. So this is a really great book in case you haven't read it. The title is Active Hope, and you'll hear a little bit about that in today's talk. So in a couple days, it will be the spring equinox, the balance point. You might even balance an egg. I hear that's fun, to show that the days and nights are at their equal point before the days start to get, they start to win. The day side starts to win. I know, and we can arm wrestle over whether that's good news or bad news. But so springtime is a time of hope in the style of a little meditation and contemplation. I'm not going to just make you sit in silence for the next 24 minutes. Snack hour would really feel great though after that, wouldn't it? Please ring that meditation bell. But we will have a series of contemplations to align us with this energy of hope. And the one thing to say before we dive into that, I really enjoy that work of active hope. And as you'll hear, it's described, it's kind of like the work in positive psychology that they've done with learned optimism. Regular old optimism is it's almost based on seeing your outcomes as being likely and saying, oh yeah, or you can have unrealistic optimism. But there's, in this work of active hope or learned optimism, there's a choice that we can make to have our hope or our optimism come this way, like a radiant force that we emanate into the world rather than something that's dependent on the world coming at us. I think this skill for many of us will get more and more essential in the coming days. So active hope important, but today I want to talk about sustainable hope. Sustainable hope. And part of this is a spring equinox meditation. I personally am very into the idea of liturgical calendars lately. I don't know if you've heard me say that a number of times recently, but it's kind of cool to have different times of the year where you can focus on different stuff. It's almost like a radical act of anti-consumerism, right? Instead of thinking that all throughout the year, production must remain high, coffee consumption must remain adequate, and sleep must remain reduced, we think, hey, maybe in the wintertime I'll sleep in and dream, and then in springtime I'll be hopeful, and then in summertime we're going all out, we're partying, and then in autumn maybe that's the time to be really critical and kind of pessimistic. So it means that you don't just have to be one thing all year round. Personally, I like to be an optimist and a pessimist. I just do it in spring and autumn and attempt a life of balance. In Buddhist tradition, they have this idea of impermanence, which works pretty good, right? If rainstorms are worrying you about the condition of your roof or the condition of your nation's infrastructure, you can meditate on impermanence. Ah, yes, but the rain shall pass. In Earth-centered traditions, though, they have an even more practical version of impermanence, because as you watch, the flowers and the buds come back next year again and again and again. We know that not only will the dark time pass, it will give way to the next cycle. If we learn to harmonize ourselves with those cycles, there's a type of current of hope that comes underneath the whole time, regardless of if I'm taking advantage of a pessimistic turn of mind or taking advantage of an optimistic turn of mind. I can rest myself in the fact that there are larger cycles taking place. So in the interest of sustainable hope, I made you an acronym, and it comes from the word spring. So this series of contemplation is called Sustainable Hope Springs Eternal, and that's an acronym. Let me give you the whole thing first. Here we go. These stand for stillness, potential, radiance, intelligence, no, and a good night's sleep. And I think if you take this acronym with you, you will master the art of sustainable hope. Okay, don't mind these slides that I'm going to rapidly scroll back through. Number one, are you ready? Get on with it, Raj. Stillness. The best insights come, many of us have found, when your brain can just wonder and wander. The best insights come, many of us have found, when your brain can just wonder and wander. Of course, there is scientific reasoning we could find for this. Some people do really well on a deadline, but for many of us, sort of just chemically, when we're on a deadline, it activates these stressful parts of our brain that put us into a type of tunnel vision, and not these nifty, big, weird psychedelic parts of our brain that make us wonder what new things might be possible. When we get to wonder and wander in our mind, we can kind of be like, such luminaries as like Einstein, whose theories largely were about imagining himself like riding his motorcycle on a sunbeam. Did you know he was like an avid like motorcycle dude? And this is like, oh wait, if I rode my motorcycle on a sunbeam and then I outpaced the speed of light, what would happen then? And there are a number of these geniuses who had their best, they solved their most complex equation while they were snoozing on the train. They thought about it until they were exhausted. And they had nothing to do on this train, so they took a nap. And that's when the insight came. To get the best out of the uprushing energies of spring, you have to do a really good winter. We don't really want to be like the farmer, the proverbial farmer, I should say, who wanted so bad for his new plants to grow that every night he went out and began pulling them up out of the soil to see if they would get taller a little bit faster. The seed time underground in stillness and silence is just as important as the sprouting time and the seedling time and something about cotyledons and propagations and such. In the Neijing Su Wen, the classic of traditional Chinese medicine, the main classic of traditional Chinese medicine, the author states, not harmonizing with qi of winter, the inward storing and protective qi, will lead to lassitude in the spring and an inability to accord with the uprising energy of flourishing. So if we can find a way to start through stillness, and it's not too late, you've got like 2 to 3 days, depending on which calendar you're using, right? You can still get really still, accord with the energy of winter, so that when the upflourishing of spring comes, it's coming from roots deep in the dark and moist earth. So in that spirit, to take best advantage of these 2 to 3 days, I thought we should meditate a little bit, and let's do it skillfully. We're going to do a bit of silence, but to prime ourselves for silence, we're going to sing a song and vibrate all the thinky thoughts out. So this one is in your hymnal. You can remain seated for this, and we'll sing together number 352. It's up here or in the hardback book. Let's invoke a little stillness. Find the stillness. the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit, giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit, giving power, I will find true harmony. Then let this song guide you into a comfortable seat. You can close your eyes if that's nice for you. We'll do just about a minute of silent meditation together. And in particular, I'd love for you to imagine or feel that for this next minute or so, there's nothing you have to do. It's a time to simply be. And even if your mind tells you there's something you have to do, there's nothing you have to do about that. Letting things settle just the way they are. Letting the body breathe itself all on its own. And then letting go of that minute of mindfulness, deepen your breath a little bit. And when you feel ready, you can raise your gaze. We'll continue with our acronym. S is for stillness, planting our roots. And what some of us will notice, if you have a chance to go into a meditation retreat, oh, how nice, or even on vacation. Okay, I'm gonna tattle on my wife. I didn't check in with her about this, but she's the perfect example because I was like, babe, we need to take more time off. We're gonna work ourselves ragged. It's the problem of like entrepreneurs who are doing what they love, is that you do it all the time. You have to make yourself take a break. Your boss can be a real jerk. And she told me the phenomenon that happens for her is once she starts to relax and take downtime, so many inspirations begin to pop up that then she has to act on them. So we may find that if we start to get quiet, insights will begin to pop and percolate. Those are two good P words, but the one I chose is potential. If we get into stillness, sometimes a good night's sleep, oh, may we all be blessed with a good night's sleep. We can wake up. If we went in that direction, it's like you were able to make a little spark, and with some, you could encourage that into an actual ember and even kindle a lantern that lights your own and others' ways. In quiet, new insights are born. We may need to do a 180 from the attitudes that consumerism has taught us. So my favorite social media app, which is about to be banned if the Biden administration has their way in an odd turn of events. Okay, so on TikTok, everyone's a creator, right? And one of the things that means is the minute you have an idea, you open the app and you tell everyone about the idea, because if you strike that one that goes viral, you could have like a whole career for about a week until they randomly cancel your account out of nowhere. Maybe that's why they're banning it. I'm not sure. Anyway, there's a bit of a prevailing attitude that the minute we get a new idea, we should be able to monetize it, or else it's not much of an insight. It's not much of an insight unless we can monetize it. Similarly, if you want to make positive change in the world, sometimes as you get still, you'll get a great insight about how we can make positive change in the world. And we need to watch out for a moment of the mind's tendency to concretize, to say, this insight has to emerge fully formed, like the Buddha or something, and come out and take 8 steps and say, I am the chosen one. Our insights, they're like little plants. And if we expect them to already be fully grown, to already be fully cooked, we'll miss the most creative ones. We'll miss the ones that are really going to change the course of things, really be able to think outside the box, because we'll be looking for the ones that match our existing biases, that match the ways we already know how to make them work. The spring is a very generative time, and if you look around nature, every kind of weed is just popping up everywhere, including awesome dandelions, which you should let grow for the bees, right? And then awesome chickweed, which you could harvest and make a salad out of. And then you could actually harvest a dandelion and make salad out of them, and coffee and all sorts of neat things. Nature wants to proliferate. And if you're too quick with that weed whacker, you might get rid of some of the best possible stuff. The idea is not that we're just going to let every idea run rampant, but that we're going to let things proliferate a little bit and see which one has potential. I don't know, like that movie trope, right? You know, they give the kid a guitar and they bring him out and they're like, I don't know about this kid. And one guy's like, well, let's see what he's got. And then, I think it was Michael J. Fox or something. It's a really weird scene. But some of them have got potential. If we blow on the spark of our inspiration gently, it might just fan into the flame of full-on insight. P is for potential. R is for radiance. This is the active hope part. Active hope means something like not basing our sense of hope or our capacity for hope on our expectation of results. I'll read to you from Joanna Macy herself. Since active hope doesn't require our optimism, we can apply it even in areas where we feel hopeless. The guiding impetus is intention. We choose what we aim to bring about, act for, or express. Rather than weighing our chances and proceeding only when we feel hopeful, we focus our intention and let it be our guide. If we've taken the time to nurture our seedling inspirations, now that they're growing strong, it doesn't matter if anyone else believes in them. We know their worth and we can stay loyal to them. It's a loyalty to our values that creates the solid ground from which we move into our rich lives as a force of benefit. So to meditate on this idea of radiance, let's sing another hymn from our hymnal. You can stay seated if you like for this one. I mean, if you have to stand up because the Spirit moves you, then do so, but it's not really that kind of hymn. So we'll sing together, We'll Build a Land. Please note, I made the executive decision of changing some of the words. So if you're reading along in the book, this will not match. Go with the words on the screen. Verses 1, 2, and 4. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go land where all of our people, anointed by love, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn. We'll give them garlands instead of ashes. We'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where all of our people, anointed by love, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build a land, my people we seek. Come build a land where all of our people, anointed by love, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Oaks of righteousness, that's the goal. We're going to need roots down in stillness. I mean, I don't know, not everybody likes righteousness. I'm a big fan of oak trees. But something solid and awesome. You're going to need roots down in stillness. You're going to need, for now, to be a little acorn, with the goal that soon will be solid enough to withstand all that a sturdy oak can withstand. Okay, radiance is great, but radiance is not good enough. Learned optimism is a really cool thing, but the criticism of an optimistic way of life usually comes from the realists, right? That's the preferred term for pessimists. And it's because we don't want to go about just thinking, well, I've got values. We sang the song today at UU. We'll build a land. How? How will you build this land? We, especially in a UU church, who are famously sometimes a little too intellectual, we know the value of intelligence, but what I want to share is the value of having an order to things. That if we had tried to apply the cutting knife of our intelligence before the little acorn has even had a chance to develop into a sprout, we're not using it correctly. If, though, we've fanned the ember, I'm switching metaphors on the fly, let me try. Okay, we've created a spark. We've fanned the ember. We've lit the lantern. Now you can trim the wick. If you try to trim the wick too soon, if you've ever done this with Grandpa's old lantern, it just goes out. We need a burning light. We need a well-established peach tree before you start to prune that thing. So I think I'm preaching to the choir on the need for intelligence. Now that seedlings have some roots, we may need to prune. We may need to change directions. We may need more resources. We may need to manage our own unrealistic expectations. Sorry. This is not an era where, at least in my view of the world, what's come to me, where we're really being encouraged to plant the trees that we won't get to sit in the shade of, but that our grandchildren will. It's not really part of the cultural zeitgeist. We're a little more like, well, how can I get an orchard to produce as fast as possible? And then, it's a real bummer when I drive up that I-5 and you just see these overturned almond trees that have outlived their usefulness. They've extracted as much water and nutrients from the soil as they possibly can, and now they're just knocked over. We might need to trim the wick of our radiant hopes to actually understand that change takes a long time. And to do so sustainably might take even longer. Our hopes might lead us to believe, hey, we're going to change it all tomorrow. And dang, like if we can, let's hope for that. But sometimes change doesn't happen that fast, and this is where our movements will burn themselves out. The reason you trim the wick is because you're going to need wick and oil for quite a long time. We bank the fire because we need the thing to burn throughout the night, or you're going to get really hot, and then you're going to get really cold. In our Taoist tradition, in what they call the Bible of Taoism, the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu says, remember that a tree that you can't even reach your arms around starts from a tiny sprout that you can hardly even see. Remember that the journey of 1,000 miles starts right beneath your foot. If we get too caught up on, is my seedling good enough? We may deprive ourselves of the epic joy of thinking of how my own grandchildren, the grandchildren of someone else, the wolf packs and the elk and the shelter dogs of 7 generations from now might benefit. If it's hard to find hope for what can I accomplish tomorrow? What can I accomplish in a week? What can we accomplish by the presidential election of 2024? We might want to think about what seeds can I plant that in 300 years will begin to bear really beautiful fruit. This too gives hope, for while we may struggle, we can know that we're contributing to something bigger than ourselves. And this makes the struggle a source of strength rather than mere fatigue. If you disagree, boy, have I got a slide for you. The power of no. So we've got stillness, potential, radiance, intelligence. My favorite one, no, the power of no. So in our Taoist tradition, they feel that spring is the time of flourishing. And in some of us, what's really neat is that like as the weather changes, we start to feel this flourishing. We're like those rosemary plants and that peach tree. We're like, the dark is over. I'm about to get out and do stuff. That's awesome. If, though, we let the power of flourishing, what is it, write checks that my something can't cash. You guys don't know that one? Don't let the power of flourishing write checks your can't cash. Don't let your something like that. Yeah, manage your expectations. We need to relearn perhaps the power of boundaries, the power of saying no to ourselves and saying no to others. And even for those of us who were raised like with a fawning response, this one's still really fun when you start to practice it. Well, gosh, Nancy Reagan handed this one down to me. Just say no. Okay, what am I supposed to say about this? We, in addition to radiance and intelligence, part of intelligence is knowing where our boundaries lie. We need to be aware that some of the intense energy that we want to bring to the next movement, the next project, is actually just our savior complex, telling us that someone's got to save the day, and I really have a strong feeling that it ought to be me. Unfortunately, we may bring that to our movements and even sometimes to our churches. As a member of numerous spiritual organizations and a leader in some of them, I have seen the pattern sometimes that there are occasionally heroes. They're occasionally heroes. They come and they give their all to save the day. And unfortunately, if they run out of gas, the day unsaves itself very, very quickly. Have you noticed this in the organizations that you belong to? That heroism is great as long as no kryptonite comes along. As long as your hero has access to the Earth's yellow sun or whatever gives them their superpower, then this day can continue to be saved. We might want to watch out for this in ourselves. The energy of spring, the energy of insight and flourishing uprising us tells us, hey, I can do anything. And that's true until you can't. Until long COVID hits. Until you come out of a long meditation retreat worse than you went in, like I did. And all of a sudden, the tremendous amount of time and energy you had to devote to these projects somehow isn't there. This one's the best case scenario, because at other times, our heroic impulse leads us to contribute so much that what causes us to stop saving the day is resentment. That I'm the one who can save the day. Why am I the only one saving the day? Why aren't any of you saving the day? And the day becomes unsaved really fast, faster even than if you just dropped out, than when you begin to turn the vitriol on others for things you got yourself into. And all of this could be avoided if you just give those who depend on you the gift of no. Can you do just one more thing for us? Let me hear you, congregation. All God's children said, no, I cannot do one more thing for you. And we, in positions of leadership, say, thank you for taking care of yourself. I'm sure we'll be able to flourish much more sustainably through the power of no. Eckhart Tolle wrote a great book, Power of Now. That was cool, but that's back on S. Do the power of now, and then get yourself all the way to the power of no. My Kung Fu teacher gave us this lesson yesterday in class, reminding us as our buddies grabbed us by the hand and kicked us in the lower back and then twisted our hand around like this. And then halfway through the class, he said, now, if you're over 40, you probably should have told your partner at the beginning not to take you all the way into the leverage and the throw. But if you forgot, tell them now. Give your partner, because they want to train with you later in the week. And if you let them break you, because you didn't give them the gift of no, they don't get to train with you later in the week. It's really cool to radiate our values, and it's really cool, like the Unitarians of yore, to laud our own intelligence, to radiate our values so skillfully. And it's also extremely important to understand that each and every one of you is a limited, needy, dependent being. If we can wake ourselves up from the myth of hyper-individualism, from the trauma response of personal heroism, the fact that we are interdependent beings could become something really, really beautiful. And it starts with saying, yes. Okay, thanks. Last one. A good night's sleep. Why not end on a good night's sleep? At the end of the day, I don't know about you, I need to be able to turn my wonderful electronic external brain, in Chinese it's a 电脑, electric brain. I need to be able to turn, where is it? Here it is, electric brain. I need to be able to turn it to this magical thing they call airplane mode, which doesn't mean you airplane it across the room because you're so frustrated. No, it just means it's not picking up any signals. If we can't do this, the power of flourishing that has led us to keep exposing our brains to blue light until 3 a.m., even though we've got to wake up at 7 a.m., is going to cause our ability to contribute to the benefit to self and others to decline. But that's a tall order. So this week, again, in our conversations on entrepreneurship, my partner and I were talking about a updated version of the Serenity Prayer. And it went like this. During working hours, I will change the things that I can. During working hours, I will change the things that I can. After 5:30 p.m., I will accept the things I cannot change. And throughout that time, I'll try to have the wisdom to know the difference. A good night's sleep is perhaps the greatest power that can be possessed by those who want to change the world. With this, we can balance also knowing where our boundaries are, knowing that my radiant values are like an oak of righteousness, and I'm doing them intelligently and things like this. By saying no as well, we can possibly even sometimes get to sleep the sleep of the just. Is that still an expression? Sleep the sleep of the just. That you know you used yourself up all day long. It comes to 5:30, 7:30, whatever you like. You've had a decent meal. You read your fantasy novel for an hour. That's what works for me. You do what works for you. And by the time it's time to go to bed, you know that as a limited, dependent, extremely human being, you did everything you can to radiate your values into the world. It's a very good feeling, and it's one that we can train in if we want to go all the way back to the beginning, to the power of stillness, to be able to recharge ourselves with sleep so that we can arise and flourish anew in the next day. So, Sustainable Hope Springs Eternal. This is your acronym, should you choose to accept it. If not, pick step 5. Stillness, potential, radiance, intelligence, the power of no, and a good night's sleep. With this, I believe we can accord ourselves with the flourishing and rising energy of spring so that we can make our hope into sustainable change for ourselves and others.